and welcome to Andertons TV. My name is Jack Duxbury. He's Tay-Tay in another room, but he's left a Model D, a Minimoog, the latest reissue from our good friends over at Moog in North Carolina, Asheville. This is an Appalachian cherry wood, a solid aluminium case, classic circuitry, very faithful to the original. I think we're all agree now that they're nailing that, but with a few added extras for those of you that didn't know. I didn't know until I read through the manual, and there are some new things, namely keybed, TP7 keybed from Fatar. That means that we've got aftertouch and velocity that are easily plumbed in at the back, along with some expanded ins and outs there. Also, you can turn, there's a few startup sequences where you've got a bit more choice than any other issue with regards to MIDI implementation. So very subtle things that they put in there, and one thing not so subtle is this adding of an LFO. So before, we could use the third oscillator in here as a LFO source, but now we have a separate LFO down here and we can blend between the two of them. But you wouldn't know, right? They fit in to the design so well. So let's go through that. At the moment I've got a pretty standard Minimoog bass line going on. Now, huge factor that's new, spring-loaded, baby. Every time I've played one of these before, I'm a big whittle stick guy, and these are never spring-loaded, but this is the first one I've come across, and I think it is the first one to have a spring-loaded pitch wheel in, and it's programmed to be a fifth, so but it means I can. Those things weren't possible, or you'd have to really get the technique down, so that's very handy. And above it, here's the LFO. It just says LFO rate, but the way we implement it is up here in this controller section. So these rocker switches, as I understand it, very simply, if you look on this modulation mix, it says oscillator 3 or filter envelope, noise or LFO, and this switch below will choose essentially what is either side of the fader. So if this is LFO, it means to the right, it will be the LFO, and if it's on filter, it'll be to the filter. If it's on oscillator and noise, vice versa. So that's how I got my head around it. So how do I demo that? Let's get our normal funk sound that we got and extend the decay time of it, and we'll get the filter decaying as well. Crank up the resonance a bit. Now, I can, I've got all three oscillators running into this mixer here. Before, I'd have to burn oscillator 3 and turn that into an oscillator. I'll do that in a minute, but now I can just use this LFO and see what I can get going. If I put the rate about there, and then let's make this, yeah, the LFO, and we will crank this up. And then I bring it in through the mod wheel here. So you can hear that modulating the filter there, but check this out, push-pull, baby. That's because I've got two wave shapes here. I've got a triangle and square. And then what's interesting is, because this could be the LFO, the other side of it can be oscillator 3, and I can put oscillator 3, take it out of keyboard control into low frequency, and now I can almost blend between the two wave shapes. You feel me? So there's quite a lot of subtlety in there between the two things, and we can get that modulating the oscillator as well, just with this simple switch. Get that up into audio rates. So way more modulation capabilities there, and also with the in and outs, patching that out to modular gear, they've added these very thoughtful little things in there, but haven't changed the experience of sitting at an OG Minimoog. Let me just flick this back into something a bit more traditional like we were before, and show off my favourite feature, even more than the spring-loaded pitch bend and the cool new key bed. This one's the absolute masterpiece feature. I've programmed this slightly elongated kind of torusy bass to me. We've got 3 oscillators all sounding there. One, a couple squarey pulsey waves and one soary wave. So pretty low stuff. But the big thing is, you'll see, ooh, got a lamp lighting up, just like in the real plugin. If you're used to the plugins, often you'll see this. And one of the features that a million people have shown off over the years, and one of the few things I got to try last time I was at one of these, was you could plug the output back into the audio input and create a feedback loop which would give it a bit more hair. Now they've built that in, you've just got it on a knob, so you can turn that on and bring that in. So I'm going to turn that circuit on, and I'm going to crank it up and listen to what happens. Unreal. So not a lot going on at the bottom. Let's have a listen down the bottom end and see what it does. That's halfway. Up about 8. And we're starting to hear that coloration. Off. I'll play the same lick. Now crank it a bit more. So loads of colour in here, and once you got, there's some frequency modulation options as well. I think that's just lovely little added spices already to a dish we know people love. And if you're the type of person looking at this, you probably know how much it's going to cost you, but those added bits mean that you've got a unique piece in time and history, and these are very limited here. Super lucky to just get my hands on one. It feels, I was skeptical about the colour, but in the flesh, I love the colour. And again, it's just nice to be like, hey, it feels, even when Lee came in, he was blown away by it, and that says something. Thanks, Taylor, for getting the cameras running, and thanks so much for watching. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing. If you don't, let us know in the comments. We learn from the hate, and sending loads of love to you guys out there.